We're going to start with Europe. Economic outlook there is beginning to brighten a bit more. Fresh data shows that the Eurozone notched its first quarter of growth since the recession that began at the end of 2011. Economic output for the region rose 0.3% in the second quarter. Germany was one of the main drivers. But the European Commission is warning against expecting a full recovery soon. Over in the UK, the unemployment rate there held steady at 7.8% for the last quarter. But that's still well above the 7% target set last week by the Bank of England. The bank's Governor Mark Carney says he'll keep interest rates at a record low until the target is reached. Richard Bestick reports on reaction from the British business community.
Companies like Hayward Tyler here have welcomed the certainty given them by the Bank of England's dramatic break with tradition. The producer of pumps and motors for power stations and oil exploration around the world is investing this year $1.5 million, much of it through loans. So knowing the cost of cash is critical.
Businesses plan years ahead. If we've got the knowledge that interest rates will remain low for 2-3 years, we've got the opportunity then to look at what we can afford, and that all helps in terms of the certainty for the business.
The problem with unemployment is that for the Bank of England it's a moving target. There's slack in the economy. These people will need to borrow, and they need the confidence to borrow. And what if the workers here simply do more overtime? That won't bring down the unemployment rate. Which could throw Bank of England estimates on when the economy is strong enough for an interest rate hike. Bank of England Governor Mark Carney says he wants to see unemployment fall from its current 7.8% to 7% before raising rates. Some analysts say that could happen as early as next year. Others that it might not happen for another 3 years. Clarity, though, to encourage UK companies like Hayward Tyler to borrow, spend and increase productivity.
World demand is up, activity levels in our markets are high, therefore we're recruiting people, and the certainty that the Bank of England's announcement has made just helps the business.
It means, of course, that for the first time in decades, unemployment has become mission-critical data and will be watched closely by businesses, banks and world markets. Richard Bestick, CCTV, London.
Peter Schiff joins us live from Weston, Connecticut, CEO and Chief Global Strategist at Euro Pacific Capital. Good to see you, Peter. Let me start with these numbers out of Europe. What does it tell us about the overall economy in the UK?
Well, you know, I think if the goal is to create jobs, they're not going to do it by creating inflation. Holding interest rates too low is not what's going to create jobs in the UK. They have to understand what is the impediment to job creation, and it's big government programs, it's minimum wage laws, it's other laws that restrict employers' ability with respect to hiring and firing and all the various taxes that they encounter and lawsuits that they potentially encounter when they hire people. So that's what the government should be focused on, removing all these barriers to let the free market create jobs. But if they think they're going to create jobs by creating inflation and keeping interest rates low, they're wrong.
Peter, you and I have had a lot of conversations about different problems around the world, but we've actually never talked about this specific one. That's the youth unemployment, not necessarily just only in the UK, but also the whole entire rest of Europe. And look, they embrace capitalism. They, for the most part, have free markets. What are they doing wrong, and why is this such just a crazy problem when you try to explain this to somebody who lives outside of Europe?
Well, you know, the minimum wage law is particularly problematic for young, unskilled people. Now, I know the British, they have some kind of apprentice training wage, but, you know, by the time you get to be 19, I think the full minimum wage applies, which, you know, I think it's close to, in U.S. terms, about $10 an hour. I'm not sure exactly what it is, you know, in pounds, but that's about where it is. But, you know, a lot of people aren't worth that much. They don't have the skills, and, of course, the minimum wage is just the beginning. You know, you have to pay a lot of taxes. On top of that, there's payroll taxes. So the cost of hiring people is a lot higher than just the minimum wage payment. And so for a lot of people, that's a barrier they can't overcome.
What about this issue of
permanent unemployment?
What about this issue of firing people? Because I hear that a lot from a lot of economists.